All right, welcome back. Thank you for tagging along and following my madness as I continue to disassemble my room and take apart everything. Today, I am working on packing the smaller stuff that you see here, the Wadax, the MX180 processor, the power conditioners, and so on. But anyway, the purpose of today's video is to kind of share with you some of the lessons that I have learned, lessons that I think are important that very few of you understand. And that is the importance of the room. As you see right now on your screen, I was essentially doing this out of a living room with big speakers. And even though I have to say that I thought I was getting good sound and I was quite happy with the results, I didn't know any better. I had no clue of what I was talking about until I built a dedicated room, fully treated. So why am I saying this to you guys? Well, there has been always this narrative about certain things not making a difference in a home audio system. What am I specifically talking about? For instance, an outlet and the impact that it has on your sound system. Footers, the impact that it has on your sound system, speaker cables, and so on. Many of you refuse to believe that these small things make a difference. But very few of you have ever thought about the possibility that maybe it is your room that happens to negate the impact of these small tweaks. I have been in rooms where I can honestly say to you, it would be nearly impossible to detect any small changes of these tweaks because the room is got a lot of reverb, echo. There's a lot of this slap effect that you get when you talk. I can hear my voice actually around the room. And so how are you supposed to understand the positive or negative impact that a small tweak had in your system when your room is constantly fighting your sound system? No one ever talks about that. No one on the forums, no one on this YouTube space ever mentions the importance of a room. This is why I always discourage people from paying too much attention to those who have opinions about certain things not making a difference. I would encourage you, next time you read these comments about footers not making a difference or cables not making a difference, I would encourage you, please take a look at their room. Take a look at their listening space. Are they listening in a naked living room? Are they listening in a space that's not really satisfactory for a real, true home audio system? These are things that you need to ask yourself. Please keep an open mind and understand that there are rooms that are so well built. And I'm not saying mine was the greatest. This is actually one of the reasons why I'm moving to actually pursue a far superior listening room. As a matter of fact, 2 listening rooms, and that is to really take my system to a whole new level. Oftentimes, 9 times out of 10, when you play a loudspeaker like what you see here, my TADs and my Martens, you are hearing the speaker plus the room boundaries, plus the coffee table, your furniture, and so on. You're not only listening to the speaker. This is one of the reasons why Nearfield listening is so amazing, because you are taking the room out of the equation. You're taking the boxes, you're taking the coffee table out of the equation. It's just you in between 2 speakers forming an equilateral triangle. This is what's so magical about Nearfield listening. This has been one of the biggest learning lessons for me. How important a room is and what it can add to the performance of your system. I dare to say it's probably the most important aspect of a well-designed system, the room, because if you don't have a proper room, unfortunately, it won't matter how much money you pump into the system. In addition to the room, another thing that matters is who sets up the system. I am not a setup specialist. I think I know a decent amount. I think I know enough to make most systems out there sound pretty good. But the reality is that you can even squeeze the last 20% out of a system by setting it up correctly, by having the right towing, by having the right diffusion, the right absorption, the right chairs, if you will, something that I know many of you have been giving me shit about, the older chairs that I had in the room. But anyway, we took care of that. Eventually, when I build my next room, I will have real chairs for listening. I want to leave no stone unturned. I want to make sure I address everything. The importance of power is something that also some of you oftentimes don't pay attention to. You think that a power cord doesn't make a difference. You think that an outlet doesn't make a difference. It all makes a difference. Assuming that you have the proper space, assuming that your room is well set up, you will hear a difference. Flipping the page, here's something else that I've learned. Comparisons. Comparisons even in a controlled environment with an actual room, dedicated space. A and B comparisons to me are some of the most flawed things I have ever conducted here in the room. And here's why. In order to do a fair comparison, there are several things that you need to take into consideration. When, let's say you're doing an A and B comparison of a cable, but you just change the speakers, you really cannot perform the right cable comparison because you're still getting used to your new loudspeaker. You should at least put 500 hours to 1,000 hours on your speaker to not only break in the speaker, but also to get your hearing and your brain adjusted to the new sound. You should not be embarking on A and B comparisons when you just bought a brand new set of speakers. It's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You need to let the speakers break in. You need to get used to the sound of the speakers. Then once your brain is synced to the new speaker sound, then once you are in tune with your new speakers, you could start doing A and B comparisons. Please stop doing A and B comparisons of multiple products at once. It is a flawed approach. I promise you it doesn't lead to correct results. And obviously, whatever you think it is, whichever cable you think is superior might not be the superior cable because you're hearing too many variables at once. Also, when it comes to cable comparisons, another thing that I have learned is doing these A and B fire drills, not comparisons, but fire drills, plug and unplug, plug, unplug, plug and unplug. To me, it's one of the most flawed ways to compare cables. Cables need time to settle into the system. Again, some of you are going to tell me I am nuts by saying that, but I'm telling you, they need time. A proper design room will also show you how a cable can go from sounding harsh, glassy, brittle, bright, to being smooth, refined, musical, and so on. These are things that to me should never be overlooked. It is very important that you conduct the proper A and B comparisons. And when I get out to my new home, my new residence, and my 2 labs are built, these are some of the things that I'm going to be embarking on. I plan to have, some audiophiles show up and perhaps host events and do these things real time. Let people hear what I'm saying because I'm tired of preaching and not showing you. So if all goes well, I have a ton of plans for these 2 new labs where we're going to be able to do comparisons on perhaps a cost no object system and a more affordable sound system. And we can actually say, you know what? Maybe this one that's more affordable is really the way to go because the cost no object is probably only 5% better and it's costing 10 times as much. I want to drive those conversations. I want to have perhaps a tube system on the more affordable system and then crazy all-out assault like these amplifiers with an expensive speaker and just give you 2 reference points. This is what's going to be so much fun about it. I am going to be able to talk about both ends, something that I have never been able to do because I only had this room here. That's all I had. Now, with 2 rooms, I'll be able to present to you 2 different price points and really talk to a broader audience, you may potentially see more PS audio on the more affordable system. You might see more affordable Martens. You might see more affordable Magicals with a nice 25 watt tube amplifier and, you know, affordable speaker cables. I want to be able to now have a bigger reach. This is the reason why I need 2 rooms. But well-designed rooms is the key, not just rooms. Okay, so I gotta keep going here. Today I have to start taking stuff out of my lab and emptying the room, because pretty soon, in about a week or so, we will be painting this room in white to leave it ready for when the house is up for rent. So thank you for your support. Please comment below about what I just mentioned to you when it comes to the importance of a room and how a room helps you really hear or negate the smallest changes that you're making in your system. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.